Okay, all right. In which case, I think we'll start. So welcome everybody to our council meeting tonight. I hope you're all keeping well. We'll go straight to the first agenda item, which is apologies. I can see we're all here, so thank you for that. Item number 2 is declarations of interest. So does any councillor have either a pecuniary or a non-pecuniary declaration of interest in any of the items this evening? Councillor Scriven and then Councillor Butterworth.
As a member of Clay Park Action Rothamsted Committee or Park, a charity involved in the regeneration of Rothamsted Play Park, I need to declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 7.2 of tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Butterworth.
Yes, good evening, thank you. As a councillor of St Albans Council and also chair of the St Albans Rothamsted Park Management Committee, I would like it to be noted that I hold those offices in connection with anything we discuss concerning Rothamsted Park. But on consideration, I don't think it amounts to a conflict of interest of any type, because as I understand it, were we to propose any funding which concerned Rothamsted Park, it would be conditional on the basis that that becomes owned by Harpenden Town Council. So I think there is no actual conflict of interest, but I'd like my roles to be noted, please.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, Mayor's report and urgent items. There are just 2 things I'd like to mention this evening. The first is all councillors would have received a draft plan from the clerk this afternoon, which sets out how we want to socially distance and keep safe within the 2 main shopping areas, which is the High Street and Southdown. The town clerk's asked for comments, so please read carefully and submit your comments in due course. The second one is, over the last few days, I've received a few emails and letters from small business owners, and they're finding it incredibly difficult to access the it's the Discretion Grants Fund. They're finding it very, very difficult to access. So the town clerk has written to SADC for confirmation of the application process. We haven't had a reply yet. And obviously this whole issue is very, very time sensitive. So we will be pushing hard for a response as soon as possible. Thank you. The 4th item, public questions in accordance with Standing Order 22. And I understand we have 3 members of the public who would like to ask a question. I can only see 2 at the moment. So each of the members of the public will have 3 minutes to ask their question, and they will be taken. I was going to start with Geoffrey Phillips, but I can't see him. So I think we'll go straight instead to Richard Scott. Okay, Mr. Scott.
Thank you very much. Mayor Lineker, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to speak this evening, and good evening to all the town councillors. Okay, so I'm speaking to you tonight in capacity of a local resident and council taxpayer, and just a disclosure, I actually have 2 sons, 2 of my 3 children, and they are very active members of Harpenden Cults, but I'm not here on behalf of Harpenden Cults, but just wanted to mention that. Okay, so I just have a couple of questions, and in fact a suggestion regarding the decision process to decide how to spend the £2.65 million receipts from the Westfield allotments. And again, I'd just like to thank the Town Council for making quite a lot of information public based on the YouTube video of the meeting of the 25th of November and the website containing the list of suggestions. Thank you for that. So it seems to me the following. So first of all, we've as a community incurred a very significant windfall. So £2.65 million compared to the annual budget of the council appearing to be £1.4 million. And I actually very much agree with the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Cousins, who described this as a once in a generation windfall. So it's a very significant sum of money indeed. I think the Town Council's done the right thing so far. You've solicited ideas from the community. You've received, I think, over 900 ideas so far, and I think there's a fantastic range of ideas on a range of topics, ranging from parking, sports, and other local community ventures. So far, so good. Okay. Now, it seems to me that as we go into the next stage of the process, that we have a process that's very structured and fully transparent to ensure that we have the best possible chance of generating a result that generates the maximum benefit for the community, but also it's done in a way that generates the maximum confidence of the local community as well. Okay, so in particular, the process needs to be transparent, and those who are making the decision needs to be clear as well. So I have 4 questions. So first of all, what will the further process be for shortlisting the proposals? What criteria will be used to shortlist and select the proposals? Who will decide the criteria and the shortlist? And at what stages in the process will the Town Council publish updates and invite further input from the community? And I'm happy just to repeat those 4 questions one more time.
Yes, please do.
Okay, and I'll speak a little bit more slowly. So the first question is, what will be the ongoing process for shortlisting and selecting between the proposals? What criteria will be used to shortlist and select amongst the proposals? Who will make these decisions? Will it be the full council or a subset? And at what stages in the process will the Town Council publish updates and invite further input from the community? Happy to repeat those one more time. And I do have a suggestion as well, Mayor Lineker.
If you'd like to make your suggestion.
Yes, okay. So it seems to be there's a number of the proposals were made on behalf of organisations. So Elliswick Tennis Club, Harpenden Arrows, Harpenden Colts and others. And there seems to be some kind of campaign involved on their behalf, and that's fair enough. Now, it would seem to me that should the council shortlist some of these ideas, and I'll just pick on Harpenden Colts, could be Harpenden Arrows as well, but it could make sense to invite those parties to submit and make a formal presentation to the council, having been advised of the criteria by which the council is making the shortlist. And the benefit of this would be to allow the Town Council with the best possible information, perhaps some specific clarifications on budgets and benefits and the plan and so forth. But it would obviously, I think, engender again, the maximum possible confidence from the local community that these bodies were allowed to make their best possible pitch to the Town Council for the funding. Okay, so those are my 4 questions, Madam Mayor, and a very constructive and honestly submitted suggestion for the Town Council to consider.
Well, thank you very much. To start with, who will make the decision? The full council will make the decision. We're meeting tonight to go through the very first stages of, there are no actual decision-making rules this evening. All submissions will be looked at by all members of the council. Any decision that we make as to which suggestion, submission we do think we might be interested in pursuing, will go back to the officers to then write a full report. That full report will then go to the relevant committee. The committee members will decide on their thoughts of the submission, and that decision will go through to full council. So every single member of this Town Council will have input into any decision that we make along the way. At what stage will we update the public? We will update the public when the successful submissions are agreed by the full council. As you know, all the submissions are on the online now and have been since April. So when it's the right time, i.e. when we have full information, we will put them online. Obviously, we would not put any confidential financial information online. So with that caveat, they will definitely go online at some point. Perhaps would be okay to ask the town clerk to answer the first 2 questions, because I didn't quite pick the second.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think you've partly answered some of it. So in terms of 1 and 2, so the first question was about ongoing process. So in many respects, council this evening will be deciding what happens next. The report that they've got in front of them sets out a number of suggested ways forward following an initial screening that has been carried out. But essentially, as Madam Mayor has said there are a series of next steps that Council will consider how they want to go forward. No decisions have been taken at all at this stage. The criteria was the criteria that was agreed back in November 2019. That's available in the reports that were back there. So that's looking at things around the capital expenditure required, ongoing maintenance costs, timescales for delivery, barriers that might impact on delivery, the measure of community impact. So those were the broad criteria, if you like, that was categorised as the assessment process by Council back in November. I think that broadly covers all the points off, actually.
I hope so. Yes. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Scott. So the next person I have is Brian Deegan.
Hello, thanks for letting me speak. Yeah, I'm also a Harpenham resident, and I've been reframing my question based on some of the things that have just been said. But really, I wanted to make a case. What I do for a living is I used to work for Transport for London. I push the Healthy Streets agenda. I'm a design engineer. I work for Manchester and Leicester and various mayors around the country on improving the streets and designing these streets that work better for people walking and cycling. So that's my kind of background. And really, of late, I've been trying to influence Harpenham where I live. Really, as there's so many, in my opinion, obvious things we can do to improve a lot of pedestrians in particular. So really, my question is will you be considering on-street improvements for walking and cycling as part of the bid? I know there's been lots of organisations that come in there, but for me, there's some fairly obvious crossings that we need in town. There's some fairly obvious rat runs as well that could be resolved. And particularly at the moment with people out there walking and cycling around in greater numbers in there, we kind of want them to stay to keep the air quality as good as it is at the moment, because we all know if the air quality starts getting worse and the cars all start coming back in numbers, then that potentially could exacerbate the effects of the COVID-19 virus in there. So really, I'm here to make a case and really to offer help, but I really want to know that you'll consider on-street ones and not potentially just do some building work or stuff that's in parks and the rest of it. So that's my question. Are you considering on-street improvements for walking and cycling? I haven't seen any in the time I've been in Harpenden. It must be about 15 years now, so it'd be great to have some more.
Okay, thank you for that. And yes, there are a number of ideas coming forward this evening which we'll be considering. And when any decisions are made, the ideas will be made public once the draft minutes are published. So I think you'll know fairly soon what we decide this evening.
Madam Mayor, could I just clarify a couple?
Yes, please do. Okay.
So just firstly, just in response to Brian, your question there. So there is a number of items this evening that are related to sustainable transport, and as Madam Mayor said, they're all to be considered. And then just for both the members of the public, just to confirm that our normal practice is to provide you with a written answer to your questions as well. So whilst you've received an answer this evening, we will also write to you afterwards just to confirm what's been said, if that's helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both. In which case we now go to item 5, questions which have previously been submitted by members of the council. Do we have any, Town Clerk?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we now move to item 6, which is officers' reports. 6.1 is the revised budget update. This is on page 1 of the agenda. The recommendation, council is asked to note the update on the 2020-21 budget. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that, Town Clerk?
No, Madam Mayor, I think everything is set out. Happy to take questions.
Straightforward. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Councillor de Court.
Yes, it's a small item, but I think it's relevant given the fact the key issue with this budget is the loss of income, obviously mainly from traders where we collected income. I had a specific question about the ice cream concession. It's one of the last items. There's a forecast loss of projected income of 12,500 and a comment that the contract started in April. I presume that's the new contract with a new trader, but has not started given the lockdown, and therefore the income reflects a September start to the trading. So my question is, does that does that person who has the license, do they trade outside Rothamsted Park, just across Leighton Road on that grass?
Town Clerk.
Yeah, Madam Mayor. So that is the trader outside, or they trade in a number of positions across the town, including Rothamsted Park. And I'm aware now that they actually have begun starting to trade in that area in the past few days, as I'm aware. At the point of writing this narrative, they had confirmed that they hadn't started trading. So that's good news potentially in terms of that particular item, as it may mean that actually there is less impact on their license and therefore we would lose less of the income. It is important to note that a large percentage of their income, and of which the license is based on, is large scale events such as Summer Carnival and some others which have obviously been cancelled. So you would expect the license to be adjusted as a result of that.
Thank you, because I was going to mention that I bought 3 ice creams off them on Saturday outside of my town business, and so I was hopeful that they'd been honest with you that they'd started trading, and linked to that with obviously all the other traders that potentially affected us getting footfall back into the high street with proposals across to Leighton Green and Bowers Parade, and allowing much more pedestrianisation. And I note in that excellent presentation that was sent through to us all tonight the desire to get more cycling in the town centre as well as walking, and I really hope we'll take up on that, primarily because it's good for the community, vital for the community long term, but also vital for our traders' income. The council working together to support businesses and the local community, and that fits in a lot with what Brian Deegan has said already in terms of doing some things that maybe could have been done and should have been done quite a long time ago, and now we have an opportunity to do them, so that's excellent.
Thank you. Getting back to the revised budget update, anyone else? Councillor Drake.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions related to the sensitivity of the plan. Firstly, there's a comment relating to the golf club and its request to either reduce or waive its fees, which is a significant amount of money. And I wondered if there was any update on that. And secondly, there's obviously some assumptions in this plan, which are reasonable at this stage, that certain things will continue from full activities from October, but obviously there's a risk that that won't be the case. How confident are we that we can continue to absorb and cut our cloth in the event that there's further losses of the commercial income?
Thank you. I'll refer that to the town clerk too.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think this is a really robust forecast based on what we know now. So that is based upon the licences and the agreements we've got in place, but also the messages that we're receiving through the guidance from government. So we are very much guided by those messages. So I think it's robust in the forecast for the rest of this year. Now, of course, we're going to have to be dynamic with this. I'm hopeful that this turns out to be a worst case scenario. And actually, as the year goes on, we're able to start spending more in some of the areas that we'd originally planned to. Alternatively, if this turns out to be not kind of worse than being forecast at the moment, then council will need to consider other ways in which it might have to fund the gap. So this is kind of the best estimate at the moment based on what we know, but it's something that we're paying very close attention to. In answer to the golf club question, again, at the point of writing this, it was as the narrative is set out. We have received a request from the golf club to forego their licence and their lease fee with us. So they have a licence in relation to the golf club land, and they have a lease in relation to the cottages that sit on the golf club, which the town council own. Having received that request, we have asked them for a series of financial information relating to the measures that they've started to put in place already. Off the back of that, we received a bullet point list of the types of things that they were looking to do. However, there wasn't any values against those. So I went back to them on that and asked them exactly what the current position was, what their forecast was, and also what their reserves looked like. So what was their ability to absorb any losses? I think it's fair to say they are in a very tricky position, like most golf clubs and indeed leisure or cultural providers, in that they rely heavily on their events income, which, whilst the golf club is now up and running, albeit on a very streamlined basis, the events and the halls are still not available. Unfortunately, I haven't had any further response back from the golf club, so I'm not assuming that means they won't come back to us. But as of now, I haven't been provided with any financial information. Therefore, until we are, then I can't put that in front of council in order for them to consider what you want to do with that.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question or a comment? Are we comfortable to go to vote for the recommendation, which is the council is asked to note the update on the 2020-21 budget. Those in favour, please raise your hands.
I think that's unanimous.
I think that's unanimous, yes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The next item is 6.2, and that's an update from the town clerk about the devolution of assets.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was hoping at this meeting to be able to give you a very detailed update as to where we are, and I was hoping that we were going to be much further along than we actually are. Unfortunately, both the town council and the district council have, in the past couple of months, been occupied with other things. So how we saw the negotiations and discussions going haven't quite panned out that way. However, we are now due to go in what I would call kind of a detailed period of, or a period of detailed negotiations and discussions. And I have a meeting tomorrow with the acting head of commercial and development, where this is one of the items that we're going to be looking at on the agenda. It's worth saying that we still haven't received some of the key documents that we are looking for as part of our due diligence. So, for example, we haven't received details of tree surveys for the hundreds of trees that are on the site, nor have we received, for example, condition surveys from the 2 pavilions that are on the site either. So we will be pushing for those as part of our due diligence. We also need to resolve some matters regarding the football club site and any terms that the district council may wish to see being met as part of that. I'm really hopeful that we can get the detailed discussions concluded in July, and I hope to be able to bring a detailed report for consideration and for some decisions to council in July. But in the meantime, I will keep you, Madam Mayor, up to date with discussions, and indeed wider councillors. I will keep you up to speed with how things are progressing.
Thank you very much. Our next item is 6.3, Town Hall and Park Hall Conditions Survey. And in this we have 3 recommendations. 2.1.1, agree the sourcing and acceptance of quotations to carry out the recommended repairs and maintenance of the Town Hall as detailed in the planned preventative maintenance schedule in the current financial year. 2.1.2, agree to the sourcing of quotations to carry out the recommended repairs and maintenance to Park Hall as detailed in the planned preventative maintenance schedule to further understand the financial implications of the works being carried out in the current financial year. 2.1.3, agree the recommended works in the planned preventative maintenance schedule to Latham Road Public Conveniences be incorporated to the current working practices of the maintenance team and contractor. Is there anything you'd like to clarify, Town Clerk?
No, Madam Mayor. All I would say is that this would normally be considered through the Corporate Policy and Finance Committee, as they have oversight on facilities. But this is one of those items that has been brought to council directly in light of us having virtual meetings and fewer virtual meetings. So normally it would go through CDF.
Thank you. Does anybody have a question or a comment? Can't see one. In which case, are we comfortable to go through the 3 recommendations? I think I'll take all 3 at once. Those in favour of the 3 recommendations, please show your hand. I think that's everybody again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next item is 6.4, Financial Regulations Review. The recommendation is Council is asked to approve the amendments to the financial regulations as recommended by the Corporate Policy and Finance Committee. This is quite a hefty report to go through word by word, but if anyone has any comments or questions, please raise your hand. I think it was pretty straightforward. It was mainly a change of officer title, but okay. If nobody has a question or a comment, I'm happy to go straight through to the recommendation, which is to approve the amendments to the financial regulations as recommended by the Corporate Policy and Finance Committee. Those in favour, please show.
Unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we've concluded the public part of the meeting. I'd like to ask Council to resolve to move into exempt misses. Those in favour of moving into exempt misses, please show. I think that's everyone.
Madam Mayor, let's.
I'd like to see Melanie.
No, Madam Mayor, there are not all councillors are for that.
Sorry, I can't see hands. I've got quite a few, but I can't see everybody.
So
where are we?
So I think
Councillor de Court, no.
And Councillor Priggen is not indicating.
Fine. Okay. So we have a majority.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, you may just wish to confirm whether the two councillors are abstaining or against the resolution.
Councillor de Court, Councillor Priggen. Councillor de Court first, please.
I'm not abstaining. I'm voting against. I see no reason why agenda item 7.2 tonight cannot have been organised in a manner where the public could have heard more about it. And I don't just mean the two guests in the room. I mean the residents of the whole of Harpenden. There's no reason for us to have this conversation in private. David Cameron famously said the sunlight is the best disinfectant, and all we needed to do was take a few of those numbers out that are on there, a few rough quotes, and we could have easily done it. And I'm really disappointed that we're not allowing the people of Harpenden to hear this conversation, particularly as the Mayor referred in her first answer that all submissions will be looked at by the Council tonight. So I intend to look in great detail at some of the submissions, including some of those that have been made in red, and that isn't going to be heard by the general public. I think they'll draw their own conclusions.
I hope the public be well aware of the importance of maintaining confidentiality in any negotiations, any personal information, any legal obligations this council has. So I completely disagree with you. We have very sound reasons why this is not going to be in the public domain. It's going to be in blue for councillors to discuss. Councillor Priggen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Mayor, me too. I don't feel comfortable to take this entirely in confidentiality. I think it would have been preferable to have found a way to take those bits that indicate cost out and do the rest available for the public. I think the decision making affects us all and affects every resident in Harpenden. It's a once in a generation opportunity. And I think it's our obligation as a town council to be as accountable as we can be to the public in Harpenden. I've emailed this in advance and I've had a response back that hasn't satisfied me. So I would like to vote against. Thank you.
Thank you for your vote. I still maintain that it's good practice, good business practice of the town council to honour the difference between what is legally available to the public, what is sensibly available to the public in terms of finance. And so I now note that the vote is 14-2. I'd like to thank the two members of the public who joined us. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I'm going to ask everybody to reconvene in 10 minutes, please. Thank you.